I moved into the duplex on Marlowe Street in late September. The kind of place where you share a wall, but nothing else. My neighbor was already there when I arrived. I saw him once that first week, carrying groceries up the shared front steps. He nodded. I nodded back. That was it. For the first month, I barely heard him. No music, no television, no footsteps. I remember thinking how lucky I was. Quiet neighbor, cheap rent, walking distance to work. I had no idea how closely he was paying attention. It started with small things I didn't recognize as a pattern. My mail would be on the kitchen counter instead of the floor where it usually landed after I scooped it through the slot. A window I was certain I had locked would be unlatched in the morning. The bathroom light left on when I knew I had turned it off before bed. I convinced myself I was being forgetful. New apartment, new routines, long hours at the office. Stress does strange things to memory. That is what I told myself for weeks. Then I came home one evening and my spare key was missing from the drawer in the hallway table. I kept it there in case I ever locked myself out. I tore the apartment apart looking for it. I checked every drawer, every coat pocket, every bag. It was gone. I told myself I had misplaced it. Maybe I'd taken it out months ago and forgot. But I started locking the deadbolt from the inside every night, the kind you need a key to open from either side, just in case. 2 days later, I was doing laundry in the basement. We had a shared washer and dryer down there. I was loading wet clothes into the dryer when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, slow, stopping halfway down. I looked up and he was standing there on the landing. Just standing. Watching me. I smiled. Asked him if he needed the machines. He stared for a long moment, then shook his head and went back upstairs. The door clicked shut behind him. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the dryer started. That night I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening. Around 2 a.m, I heard something faint, rhythmic. It took me a minute to place it. Footsteps. On my side of the wall. Not his apartment. Mine. I held my breath. The sound moved from the living room toward the hallway. Slow, deliberate, like someone walking carefully in the dark. I grabbed my phone, ready to call for help, and the footsteps stopped. Silence. Then I heard the deadbolt turn. The front door opened and closed so quietly I almost missed it. I waited until I heard his door shut on the other side of the wall. Then I got up, checked every room, every closet, every window. Nothing missing, nothing disturbed. But he had been inside. While I was asleep. While I was 3 feet away, behind a bedroom door with no lock. The spare key. He had taken it weeks ago, and he had been coming in ever since. I didn't confront him. I didn't call the police. I had no proof, and I knew how it would sound. Instead, I called a locksmith first thing in the morning. Had every lock changed. Cost me $200 I didn't have. I didn't care. For a week, nothing happened. I started sleeping again. Started convincing myself that changing the locks had been enough. That he would move on, lose interest, forget about me. Then I found the photos. They were in my mailbox. No envelope, no note. Just 4 printed photographs, slightly blurred, taken from across the street. Me leaving for work. Me coming home with groceries. Me standing at my bedroom window in a towel after a shower. Me asleep on my couch 2 nights earlier. He was still watching. And now he wanted me to know, where are you watching from, and are you watching alone? Subscribe and stay. I went to the police that afternoon, brought the photos, explained everything. The officer listened, took notes, said they would increase patrols in the area. He asked if my neighbor had ever threatened me directly. I said no. He asked if my neighbor had tried to harm me. I said no. He told me to document everything and call if anything escalated. I knew what that meant. They couldn't do anything until something happened. It was until he did more than watch. I stayed with a friend for 3 days while I looked for a new place. Found a sublet across town, broke my lease, lost my deposit. I didn't care. I packed everything in one frantic afternoon while he was at work. I timed it, watched him leave, watched the street until I was sure he was gone. I was loading the last box into my car when I saw him, standing at the corner, not moving, just standing there, watching me load my entire life into a hatchback. Our eyes met. He didn't look angry, he looked patient. I got in the car and drove. Checked the mirror every few seconds for the first 20 minutes. He didn't follow. At least not that I could see. That was 8 weeks ago. I've been in the new place ever since. Different neighborhood, different side of town, unlisted address. I check the locks twice every night. I keep the curtains closed. I don't take the same route home twice in a row. But 3 days ago, something happened that made my blood go cold. I was walking to my car after work when I noticed something on my windshield, a photograph printed on the same cheap paper as before. Me standing at my new kitchen window, taken from across the street, taken 2 nights ago. He found me. I called the police again, showed them the new photo, explained the history. They took a report, told me to be vigilant, asked if I had any proof it was the same person. I said no. Just the photos, just the pattern, just the feeling in my gut that wouldn't go away. They said they would increase patrols. I've heard that before. I don't know what to do now. I can't keep moving every time he finds me. I can't afford it. I can't keep running. But I also can't stay somewhere knowing he's watching, knowing he's close enough to take pictures through my window, knowing that locks didn't stop him before and they won't stop him now. Last night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat in my living room with every light off, watching the street through a gap in the curtains. I don't know what I was looking for, a car that didn't belong, a shadow that moved wrong. Him standing there like he did on Marlowe Street, patient and still. I didn't see anything, but that doesn't mean he wasn't there. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he's still looking. If he's the kind of person who lets things go or the kind who just needs more time. I don't know which is worse. Not knowing where he is now. Or knowing he's already found me and is just waiting for the right moment. I think about the photos. 4 the first time, 1 this time. Like he's counting down, like he's getting closer. And I wonder what happens when he decides watching isn't enough anymore. When he decides he wants more than pictures. When he decides to use whatever key he's already made to whatever door I'm sleeping behind. I check the locks twice every night. But I'm starting to realize locks only work on people who respect them. And I don't think he's that kind of person. I never did. I thought Victor was harmless when I first met him. Older guy, lived alone in the house next to mine, kept to himself most of the time. He would wave from his porch when I mowed the lawn. Sometimes he would leave extra tomatoes from his garden on my front step with a little note. Good neighbor stuff, and the kind of thing you appreciate when you move somewhere new and don't know anyone yet. He started coming over more often after my wife left. I think he could tell something had changed. The house stayed dark longer in the mornings. I stopped mowing as regularly. Mail piled up. He noticed. Started checking in, asking if I needed anything, bringing over food he said he had made too much of. I was grateful at first. It felt good to have someone give a damn. We started talking more. He would come over some evenings, sit on my porch, drink a beer, talk about nothing important. Movies, weather, neighborhood gossip, normal stuff. I thought I had found a friend. Then he started showing up uninvited. I would be inside watching television and hear a knock. Open the door and there he would be, holding something, a casserole, a six-pack, a book he thought I might like. Always with a reason, always friendly. But it was happening 3-4 times a week. And he would stay longer each time, an hour, 2 hours, talking about his life, his ex-wife, his regrets. Heavy stuff I hadn't asked to hear. I started making excuses, told him I had early mornings, told him I wasn't feeling well, told him I had plans. He would nod, say he understood, and leave. But the next night he would be back. One evening I didn't answer the door. I was home. He knew I was home, but I just didn't answer. I watched through the window as he knocked 3 times, waited, then walked back to his house. I thought that would be the end of it. That he would take the hint. An hour later, my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize. I answered, and it was him, asking if I was okay, as saying he had been worried when I didn't come to the door. I told him I'd been in the shower. He went quiet for a moment, then said he was glad I was safe. He hung up before I could respond. I never gave him my number. That was when I started feeling uncomfortable. I stopped sitting on the porch, kept my blinds closed, checked before I left the house to make sure he wasn't outside. I felt like I was hiding in my own home, and I hated it. But it got worse. I started noticing him in places I went. The grocery store I always used on Thursday evenings, the gas station near my work, the park where I ran on weekends. He was just there. Every time I asked him about it, he had a reason. He needed milk. He was low on gas. He liked walking in that park too. All reasonable, all explainable. But it kept happening. And then one Saturday, I was at a hardware store, 20 minutes from my house. A place I had never been before, buying supplies for a project I hadn't mentioned to anyone. I was comparing paint samples when I felt someone behind me. I turned, and he was standing there, smiling. Said what a coincidence, he needed paint too. I didn't believe in coincidences anymore. I cut the conversation short, checked out, and left. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, watching the entrance. He didn't come out, didn't buy anything. He had been there because I was there. I decided to say something, drove straight to his house, knocked on his door, told him as calmly as I could that I needed space, that I appreciated his friendship, but he was coming on too strong and I needed him to back off. He listened, didn't argue, apologized, or said he didn't realize he had been overbearing. Promised he would give me room. I thought that would fix it. For 2 weeks. Nothing. No visits, no calls, no random encounters. I started to relax. Started to think maybe he had just been lonely and didn't understand boundaries. That the conversation had worked. Then I found the camera. It was in the tree between our properties. Small, wireless, pointed directly at my back door and kitchen window. I only noticed it because I was trimming branches and saw the lens. I pulled it down, checked the memory card. Hundreds of videos. Me cooking dinner. Me letting the dog out. Me standing at the sink in my boxers drinking coffee at 6 a.m. Weeks of footage. I took it straight to the police. Filed a report. They went to his house. Talked to him. He denied everything. No, said the camera wasn't his. Said anyone could have put it there. They couldn't prove otherwise. No serial number, no receipt, no way to connect it to him directly. They told me to let them know if it happened again. I installed my own cameras that night. Front door, back door, side yard. I wanted evidence if he came onto my property again. 2 days later, I was watching the footage from the night before, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing. Then I saw him, 3 in the morning, standing in my backyard, not moving, just standing there in the dark, staring at my house. He stood there for 11 minutes. Then he walked back to his yard and disappeared. I called the police again, showed them the footage. They went back to his house. He said he had heard a noise and went to investigate. Said he thought someone was breaking into my shed and he was trying to help. They couldn't arrest him for standing in his own yard. Told me to get a restraining order if I felt unsafe. I started the paperwork the next day, but I made a mistake. I left for work before he did that morning. I didn't see him standing on his porch, watching me pull out of the driveway. I didn't see him follow me. I didn't notice his car, 3 vehicles back in traffic. I had no idea he knew where I worked, where I parked, what entrance I used. I found out that night when I left the office. He was sitting in his car across the street, watching. When I got in my car, he started his engine. I pulled out, he pulled out. I turned, he turned. I sped up, he sped up. I didn't go home. I drove to the police station parked right in front and went inside. Told them everything. Showed them the footage, the camera, explained that he had just followed me from work. They took another report. Sent an officer to talk to him again. He said he had been running errands and it was pure coincidence we were on the same road. The restraining order was granted 4 days later. He wasn't allowed within 500 feet of me or my property. I thought it was over. He violated it that same night. My camera caught him standing at the edge of my driveway at 1:15 midnight. Not on my property. Exactly 500 feet away, just standing there, staring. I called the police. They came out, measured the distance. 502 feet. Technically compliant. They couldn't do anything. Told me to call if he crossed the line. He never did. But he came back every night, always at the same spot, always at the same time. 1:15 midnight. Standing there for 20, 30 minutes, sometimes longer, just watching my house in the dark. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom, started sleeping on the couch in the living room where he couldn't see me from that angle. I kept my phone next to me, kept a bat within reach, started jumping at every sound. My friends told me to move. My family told me to move. Everyone said the same thing, just leave. Get away from him. Start over somewhere else. But I didn't want to. This was my house. I bought it. I built a life here. Why should I be the one to leave when he was the problem? But after 3 weeks of him standing there every single night, I started to break. I wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. I called in sick to work twice. I felt like I was losing my mind. And then one night he brought someone with him. I was watching from the window when he appeared at his usual spot. But this time there was another man with him. Younger. I didn't recognize him. They stood there together talking, looking at my house. The other man pointed, Victor nodded. They stayed for 10 minutes. Then they left together. I reported it to the police. They said unless he violated the order or made a direct threat, there was nothing they could do. Standing in a public space wasn't illegal. Bringing a friend wasn't illegal. I knew what he was doing. He was showing me that the restraining order meant nothing, that 500 feet meant nothing, that he could stand there every night for the rest of my life if he wanted to, that he could bring people, that he could make this my new normal. And he was right. I moved 2 weeks ago, didn't tell anyone where I was going, didn't leave a forwarding address, Just packed everything I could fit in a truck and left in the middle of the night. Left the house, left the town, left everything behind. The restraining order is still active. I still have it on file, but it doesn't matter now. Distance matters more than paperwork. At least that's what I tell myself. But sometimes I wonder if he's looking for me. If he's driving through neighborhoods trying to spot my car. If he's searching online records trying to find where I went. If the restraining order only worked because I disappeared. And what happens if he finds me again? I wonder if 500 feet was ever really far enough. Or if distance only matters when someone decides to respect it. I don't think Victor ever respected anything. Not my space. Not my boundaries. Not the law. And I don't think he'll respect distance either if he decides it's time to close it. I check my mirrors more than I used to. I don't stay anywhere too long. I keep my curtains closed, even during the day, and sometimes late at night when I hear a sound outside, I wonder if it's him, if he's standing 502 feet away in the dark, waiting, watching, measuring the distance between us and deciding if it's finally time to cross it. The apartment above mine had been empty for 2 months when she moved in. I remember being relieved when I saw the moving truck. Empty apartments made me uneasy, too quiet, too still. I liked knowing someone was up there, even if I never met them. I heard her moving furniture that first day, dragging something heavy across the floor, weaving footsteps back and forth. Normal moving day sounds. I thought about going up to introduce myself, but I had work early the next morning. I figured there would be time. I didn't see her for almost a week, but I heard her, pacing late at night, walking from one end of the apartment to the other, over and over, the same path. I could track her movement by the sound of the floorboards creaking overhead. Living room to kitchen, kitchen to bedroom, bedroom to living room, for hours. I assumed she was unpacking, organizing, getting settled. But it went on every night. Sometimes until 3 or 4 in the morning. I started wearing earplugs to sleep. The first time I actually saw her was in the hallway 2 weeks after she moved in. I was leaving for work and she was standing outside her door. Just standing there, staring at the wall. She didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge me at all. I said good morning. She turned slowly, looked at me for a long moment, then went back inside without a word. I mentioned it to the building manager, asked if he knew anything about her. He said she had passed the background check, or she paid 6 months' rent up front in cash and kept to herself. No complaints, no problems. He didn't see an issue. But I did. The pacing got worse. Some nights it sounded like she was running. Fast, frantic footsteps from one end of the apartment to the other, then stopping. Silence for a few minutes, then starting again. I started timing it. The pattern never changed. 11 minutes of movement, 4 minutes of silence. 11 minutes of movement, 4 minutes of silence, all night long. I tried knocking on her door once, asked if everything was okay. No answer. I could hear her breathing on the other side. I could see her shadow under the door. But she didn't respond. I left. Then things started appearing in the hallway. Small things at first, a shoe, a rolled up towel, a coffee mug, always placed directly in front of my door. Never hers, always mine. I would move them, throw them away, and the next morning something else would be there. I confronted her one evening, waited in the hallway until I heard her door open, asked her directly if she was leaving things in front of my apartment. She stared at me. Didn't blink, didn't speak. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something else. Something wrong. She went back inside and locked the door. I stopped sleeping well after that. The pacing continued every night. But now I started noticing something else. Sometimes the footsteps would stop directly above my bed. She would stand there. I could hear the floor settling under her weight. She would stand there for minutes at a time, not moving, just standing over me while I lay in the dark, trying not to move. I bought a security camera for my door, wireless, motion activated. I wanted to know if she was doing more than just leaving objects. I needed proof of something, anything, to show the building manager. The footage was worse than I expected. She came to my door every night, between 2 and 3 in the morning. She would stand there, inches from the camera, staring directly into it. Not knocking, not trying the handle, just standing, breathing. Some nights she would stand there for over an hour. Then she would go back upstairs, and the pacing would start again. Maureen, I showed the footage to the building manager. He watched it, frowned, said it was unsettling, but not technically illegal. She wasn't trespassing, she wasn't threatening me, she was just standing in a shared hallway. He said he would talk to her. I don't know if he did. But the visits stopped. No more objects in front of my door. No more late nights staring into my camera. I thought maybe she had been warned. Maybe it was over. But the pacing didn't stop. And now it was different. Faster. Angrier. She was slamming drawers, throwing things. I could hear objects hitting the walls. Glass breaking. Furniture tipping over. It sounded like she was tearing the apartment apart. I called the police for a wellness check, told them I was worried about my neighbor, that she seemed unstable, that I was concerned she might hurt herself. As they knocked on her door, she answered, spoke to them calmly, assured them she was fine. They left, told me there was nothing they could do unless she posed a direct threat. That night, the pacing stopped. Complete silence for the first time in weeks. I heard nothing from the apartment above me. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening, waiting. At 2:15, I heard my door handle turn. Slowly. Like someone was testing to see if it was locked. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The handle turned again, then again. Then I heard scratching, fingernails on the door. Long, slow drags from top to bottom, over and over. I grabbed my phone, called the police, whispered that someone was trying to get into my apartment. They said they would send someone. Stay inside. Do not open the door. The scratching stopped. I heard footsteps moving away up the stairs. Her door opened and closed. The police arrived 12 minutes later. Checked the hallway, checked her apartment. She answered the door in pajamas, said she had been asleep, had no idea what they were talking about. They checked my door. No marks, no damage, no evidence of anything. They left. Told me to call again if it happened. It happened every night after that. The handle turning, the scratching. Sometimes I would hear her whispering through the door. I couldn't make out the words. Just low, constant murmuring. It would go on for an hour, then stop. Then silence. I stopped calling the police. They couldn't help. She wasn't breaking any laws. She was just standing outside my door in the middle of the night, touching the handle, scratching the wood, whispering things I couldn't understand. I started sleeping with a chair wedged under the door handle, started keeping a knife on the nightstand, started planning an exit route through the window if I needed it. 2 weeks ago, I put in my notice, told the building manager I was moving. He asked why. I told him. He said he understood, but I wouldn't get my deposit back. breaking the lease early. I told him I didn't care. I have 11 days left. She knows. I don't know how, but she knows. The pacing has stopped completely now. The apartment above me is silent. But every night at exactly 2:15 in the morning, I hear her door open. I hear her footsteps coming down the stairs. I hear her stop outside my door, and I hear her wait. She doesn't turn the handle anymore. She doesn't scratch. She just stands there, breathing, waiting. I don't know what she's waiting for, but I know I have 11 days to get out. 11 days before the lease ends, and I have no excuse to leave. 11 days before she realizes I'm not coming back. Last night, something changed. I heard her come down the stairs like always. Heard her stop outside my door. But then I heard something else, a soft thud like she had set something down on the floor, then her footsteps going back upstairs. I waited until morning to check. There was a box outside my door, plain cardboard, no markings, no tape. Just a box. I brought it inside. Opened it carefully. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, all of me, taken through my windows over the past few weeks. Me sleeping, me cooking, me sitting on my couch, me getting dressed. Every moment of my life documented from above, from outside, from angles that shouldn't have been possible. At the bottom of the box was a note, handwritten, just 4 words. You can't leave me. I called the police, showed them everything. The photos, the note, the camera footage, the entire history. They took it seriously this time. Went upstairs, knocked on her door. No answer, knocked again. Nothing. They got the building manager to open it. The apartment was empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no belongings. No sign anyone had ever lived there. Just bare walls and bare floors. The building manager stood there confused. Said she had paid for 6 months. Said her lease wasn't up for another 4 months. Said he had no idea where she went. But I know she didn't go anywhere. I know she's still here. I can feel it. The apartment above me is still silent during the day, but at night I hear things. Not pacing, not footsteps. Just small sounds. A creak. A shift. The faint sound of breathing through the ceiling. She's waiting for something. I don't know what. But I have 11 days left on my lease, and she's still up there, still watching, still planning, and I'm starting to realize that leaving might not be enough, that whatever she wants from me isn't tied to this apartment. It's tied to me. I wonder what she'll do when I try to leave. If she'll let me go. Or if she's been planning for this the whole time. If the empty apartment was always part of it. If the silence is just her getting ready for whatever comes next. I have 11 days left. And I'm not sure that's enough time. I'm not sure any amount of time would be. Because I'm starting to understand that she isn't just a neighbor. She's something else. Someone who has already decided I belong to them. Someone who doesn't need to break in to make you feel unsafe. Someone who doesn't need to threaten you to make you afraid. I check the locks every night. I keep the chair wedged under the handle. I keep the knife close. But I'm starting to realize that none of it matters, that locks only work on people who respect them, that distance only matters to people who acknowledge it, that leaving only works when the person you're running from decides to let you go. And I don't think she's that kind of person. I never did. I have 11 days to find out if I'm right. 11 days to discover if freedom is something you can take or something that has to be given. 11 days to learn whether running is enough or if some people follow you no matter how far you go. The apartment above me is silent now, but I know she's there, waiting. breathing, counting down the same 11 days I am. And when they're over, one of us is going to find out what happens next. I just hope it's not me.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more stories.